Hey,
go.
Hey, Barbara. How are you today?
Hi, Dan. I'm good. Good.
So we're here to talk about your course. And what is the title of your course again?
Coming to know this body of knowledge, and this body meaning our own bodies.
What led you on the path to exploring this particular topic?
Oh, that's such a big, long, deep question. A personal study of what it is to be human, probably since I was about 9 years old, and dove into reading Greek myths and went, wow, these are my relatives. I'm part of a big story and a big family called humanity. Yeah, how do I come to understand who I am in relationship to myself and the world and other beings? Yeah. So it's been a big, long, deep study, what it is to learn, what it is to be conscious. Yeah. And I guess how to grow a sense of inner authority that is open, right? That has a sense that it can know things, but also that it can come to know things all the way along. Does that
And
make sense?
it does. And I think am I correct in assuming then that that's maybe a reference to the process of emergence?
Definitely, that we're beings in becoming, and that our gesture, I mean, I love embryology as well, just looking at the developing human being or anything that's developing. But especially the human being, I guess, watching it go through different phases from inception all the way to birth, just this miracle of life, and that we're constantly in a gesture, we're constantly in movement and changing, right? Something from the past remains, something changed, and something new emerges into the future. So we're human beings in terms of beingness, being expressed into the world.
I love that. I was wondering if you could tell me, and maybe this is a good thing to have at the start of the video, is um, what can students or people auditing your course expect to experience?
Well, they can expect to experience hosting questions about what it is to be human through poetry, art making, conversation, movement, including social presencing, theater, improv, all kinds of stuff we can do even online. Yeah. And constant invitations to reflect themselves and to share those reflections with others in dyads and small group and big group. So a very dynamic process of discovery and investigation and creation. Always looking at what is it to understand this body of knowledge, our own bodies of knowledge, and how do we understand them? What components do we experience? Yeah, and how have we as a humanity understood our beingness throughout time in a way? So really gleaning also what people bring in as their own wisdom, their own both cultural and their own investigative background on what it is to be human.
So it's a really sort of a deep sort of would you say cooperative or collaborative self-reflection of some kind?
Yeah, discovery process, discovery process. And I have scaffolding for this. It's a 12-week course. I wanted enough time for us to, begin and make connections and then deepen them week by week. So there's scaffolding and then the learning and the presentations become much more collaborative as we go on. So there's space for other people to bring things to read, to consider, points of view, poetry. Yeah. Although I will always hold and facilitate so people can relax into the space and don't have to feel like they have to perform it all, but they're actively encouraged and invited to step in.
I like that. It kind of reminds me of some of the fireside chats that I used to experience in one of the communities I lived in some time
Mm,
ago, where everyone would sort of gather around a fire and sort of and bring something on a specific topic, but
nice, nice.
and there
Well,
was
and
a facilitator.
beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
and to actually look at the human being from one point and maybe 2 points, self another, and then 3 points, body, mind, and spirit, or body, soul, and spirit. What does that even mean when we say mind or soul? What do we mean? And to open that up a little and open it up artistically, so we're growing our capacity to think also with our heart, not just with our head.
Yeah, you're bringing a very specific knowledge to this context, and it's a knowledge about transformation and learning and growth, right?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. That our engagement with ourselves and with others and with art and new ways of seeing things um, provide like the nourishment and ingredients for self-growth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, when we come to know ourselves more, we're building our own body of knowledge as well. And I feel like key questions for our age, like how do we know what's true? How do we know what's true in our own self?
Yeah, it's huge. I've heard you a couple times now use the term body of knowledge, so I want to ask you about that.
Well, literally, what wisdom is encased in our own body? What does our physical gesture tell us? What is our temperament, or what do our leanings tell us? You know, what are our habits of mind, habits of movement? How do we inform ourselves about ourselves just through our very beingness? You know, so that we are, this is a body of knowledge. This is a library. This is a history. Yeah, this is a collection of experiences, and maybe over many lifetimes, not just this one, depending on your point of view. And how to explore and begin to express your own body of knowledge without the need to defend or conquer, actually, but just be with.
So, if I'm hearing this correctly, there may be a narrative element. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. Good catch, Dan. Often there'll be invitations to just quietly journal. So there might be a poem or a prompt, a question that I or others may bring, and then we might move into quiet, 3 to 5 minute individual quiet journaling. And there's a couple of processes that I give people to use if they wish. One is proprioceptive writing, which is just listening to the words in your head and writing them down. And then, yeah, and then when you feel like, what did that mean? You stop and ask the question, what do I mean by, of your own writing, of your own self? For example, I woke up and I felt tight. I might be writing and I could say, oh, what do I mean by tight? I mean I'm holding my breath, I'm not expressing. And then continue writing until the next time you feel like, what do I mean? For example.
And you've got a real, I would say, like, you spent a lot of time sort of developing your understanding of the place of story in the world.
Definitely. I mean, both through myth. Let me just sink into that question. Both through personal biography, the biography of world culture, we could say. It's been, caught in myth and fairy tales and folklore passed on generation to generation. Yeah. And also the power of story from our own life. Yeah. Yeah, and definitely. And I've done a long time study on rhythms of biography, which holds a unique way of looking at story as it emerges from our own biography. From Rudolf Steiner's view of 7-year cycles of development.
Well, tell me a bit more about that. I'm interested in how stories contribute to the body of knowledge that we see as being, ourselves, and how we maybe construct, maybe that's the right word or not, how we construct ourselves.
Boy, that's a big question. Because stories can enslave us, right? Stories can quietly and silently enslave us if we have certain beliefs that we've carried that we don't even know we have, right? That I'm not very good, I'm not a fast learner, I'm not whatever the inner story is, and how to, with gentleness, welcome the story into the light of day and open it and change it into a question or change it into an image, help it change into what it can be. And some of that's discovered through conversation with self, through journaling, sharing that with another. Yeah. And a kind of lively conversation space with others, and also the use of expressive art. So giving form or gesture or color to a story or a part of a story can open up a new window to it.
Yeah. Sounds like you're using a lot of techniques that are, really designed to help people um, get in touch with themselves and communicate in a wide variety of ways about their reality and then who they are, and maybe understand it more deeply.
Absolutely. And actually to build up a portfolio of images and words and poems and little um, phrases and journal. So at the end of 12 weeks, there is something to look at. Something has emerged and grown together. So I imagine in the last weeks that's part of what we're sharing with each other as well. I mean, I've done this kind of thing in person in a certain way and started with a full body map, a full-size body map that people added to colors and images and symbols. So by the end, they had this giant 6 foot, 3 foot wide piece of artwork that was just rich, and came to know each other. It's like, oh, came to know themselves in a whole new dynamic way.
Like, to me, it seems like this is kind of a course that you've either been preparing for or teaching for, well, I mean, I've known you for about 11 years now, and I'd say that whole time you've been engaged in this kind of inquiry.
Definitely in one aspect or another. Yeah. Yeah. Building little treasure chest of tools and experiences and invitations. Yeah. And I never feel finished. Like I expect to be surprised by others and, mystified and delighted, and that it's a personal learning journey as well.
Yeah. And what would you say over the last, say, I don't know, 10 years or so would be a lesson that you would draw from your experiences in this area? Sorry to kind of put you on the spot there. I know
Oh,
that's
no,
sort of
no,
a,
no, no. What I wanted to say is the importance of taking pause. So what people experience in courses with me are experiences that I absolutely use silence and pause and this space of no rush, right? An approach of plenty of time so that we get comfortable with um, periods of silence and of coming to know, especially in the world these days when so much is expected to be quick and right now, to actually lean back into ourselves and lean back into the circle. Yeah, and I use a fourfold hosting approach developed through the art of hosting, which is I host myself, I care for myself, I host you, I care about you, I host the space we're in, and I host the purpose of our coming together, that each one of us holds that. So I would say in the last 10, 12 years, that's been the deepest part of my learning, is about space and pause and quiet, yeah, and time.
it seems to me that this is this is really something that is just so much needed in today's world where so much of our focus is external, and kind of frivolous. Like we spend a lot of time maybe watching TV or watching sports or being entertained in some way, listening to music, traveling, doing work, doing a lot of things that kind of take us out of ourselves.
Mm.
And what I'm hearing you say is like, let's turn that around and let's kind of look, let's actually take the time to focus in and look at ourselves. So to me, it almost sounds like a bit of a meditation.
A bit of a meditation for sure, an active kind of meditation, and one that builds capacity for self-knowledge, and that self-knowledge wants to be in service of the world. So it wants to be in service of coming to know you, right? So there's always this danger of it becomes this egotistical, selfish kind of gesture. So that's not the intention here at all. It's to grow self-knowledge, to be more present in the world in a helpful, loving way, in an honest way, right? For me, which is, full of the notion of reciprocity. So I bring
Yeah.
myself to the world in ways that are needed in the world, and the world comes to me in ways that I'm needed or I'm needing.
And if I'm hearing that right, there's a connect, sounds like there's a connection there between this process of transformation and kind of like a building awareness.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I mean, we could also call this course Coming to Know This Body of Knowledge, which is an ongoing process. Yes. Yeah.
How long is your course, Barbara?
12 weeks, 2 hours a
12 weeks.
session. Yeah, 2 hours. Yeah. With a little bit of work in between. Yeah. Yeah. I wanted it to be long enough that we could dive in and get somewhere deep. Because I feel like that's another thing that's needed, the time and space to develop these relationships with self and new ideas and with other people as well.
Yeah. Is there anything that I haven't asked or we haven't touched on about this course or about your thoughts around the course that you'd like to share?
I think the one thing I would like to share is that it's for anybody. You don't need to have any particular kind of abilities, artistic or communication wise, or really anybody is welcome at any stage of life. I mean, as an adult, it's adult oriented for sure. But yeah, anyone's more than welcome to come.
That's great. And what an amazing thing that you could do this as part of a university certificate. I think that's really cool.
Exactly. I think it's essential. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's really essential.
Yeah. And I just wanted to sort of tack on here at the end that when I took a course with you, I found it very transformative, in fact, and set my life on a new, I would say better, more self-aware path, and really just brought like a bunch of new energy and possibilities into my life. And I'm really grateful for that. Thanks, Barbara.
Oh, thank you, Dan. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I feel really appreciated. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
I hope other people will take advantage of this opportunity to grow similarly because it really is a fantastic opportunity.
Well, thank you. And thank you for helping hold this space and coming with beautiful questions.
Great to see you, Barbara.
You too, Dan.